Hey, what's up guys? Hardleg Joe here with the What a Deck profile for the Abyss Actor Beatdown deck. I'm just going to go through everything in here, and then I'll explain how it works. So for monsters, we've got all Abyss Actors, 3 each of Evil Heel, Superstar, Sassy Rookie, Wild Hope, Leading Lady, Funky Comedian, and Extras. For our spells, we have 3 Abyss Script, Rise of the Abyss King, 3 Abyss Script, Opening Ceremony, 3 Pot of Desires, and 1 Pot of Riches. For our traps, we're running 3 Wall of Disruption, 3 Abyss Actors Backstage, and 3 Solemn Strike. The extra deck, it's pretty much just a toolbox. We play a lot of rank 4s because we have predominantly level 4 monsters, and a couple rank 7s because we have the 7s in the form of Superstar. You can play rank 8s. I usually don't because you like to have these out on the field, but you can. Either way, none of them are all that important. You're mostly using your Abyss Actor monsters in this deck. So this deck is one of those new-fashioned pendulum beatdown decks. Fairly simple, you're just swarming the field with as many monsters as you can and attacking with them. The main monsters you're going to be beating down with are Evil Heel and Superstar. They have the highest attack with 2,500 and 3,000. Superstar, when it's summoned, your opponent can't activate spell traps or their effects. They can still negate its summon, but that means you don't have to worry about things like trap holes or torrential tributes. And if you, of course, pendulum summon this along with all these other ones, they can't activate anything for any of them. It also has the effect that once per turn you can set an Abyss Script directly from your deck, but it's sent to the graveyard during the end phase, so you can set either of these two and use them immediately. Opening Script is going to let you gain 500 life points for every Abyss Actor monster you control, which is just a good way to get a little bit of life points while deck thinning. More importantly, Rise of the Abyss King. This is going to let you destroy face-up cards on the field equal to the number of attack positions Abyss Actor monsters with different names you control. And if you control level 7 or higher Abyss Actor, your opponent cannot respond to this. So this is really good for wiping the field of monsters. If you clear the field, clear pendulums, clear face-up cards, it's all pretty nice, and you can search it directly with him. Our other big beat stick, Evil Heel, has 3,000 attack. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls. It loses 1,000 attack for each Abyss Actor monster you currently control until the end of the turn. And if it destroys a monster by battle, you can target one Abyss Script spell card in your graveyard and set it. So these two make a really good combination. You summon both of them. This one gets your Abyss Script. You use it. This one lowers the attack. You attack over a monster, and when you destroy it, you get one of your scripts back, so you can keep blowing up cards or keep gaining life points, both of which are going to be helpful in this deck. Now, as far as summoning them, Evil Heel is level 8, and Superstar is level 7, and all our scales, most of them are pretty low. They have between 1, 2, and 3. The only exemption from this is Funky Comedian, who has a scale of 8. So if you get Funky Comedian and any of your other Abyss Actors, you can use them to summon everything in the deck except Evil Heel. How you get him out is actually Wild Hope. Wild Hope has this pendulum effect that you can target the other Abyss Actor card in your pendulum zone, and its scale becomes 9 until the end of the turn. So if you get Wild Hope and any other Abyss Actor, you can turn that other scale to 9, and between 9 and 2 you can pendulum summon everything, including Evil Heel. So that's what you're mostly using this Wild Hope for. You mostly want him in your pendulum zone. He also has the effect that he can gain 100 attack for each Abyss Actor you currently control if he's a monster. So you can get him up to like 19, 2,000, which is decent. Also, if this card is destroyed by battle or a card effect, you can add one Abyss Actor card from your deck to your hand, which includes this trap. This is an Abyss Actor trap. These are Abyss scripts, so you can't add those, but you can add the trap or any of your monsters from your deck to your hand, which is pretty nice. I guess I should go over the trap real quick. This is Abyss Actors Backstage. So if you have 2 Abyss Actor cards in your pendulum zones, add 2 Abyss Actor monsters with different names from your deck to your extra deck. And you can only activate once per turn. So this is really good for setting up your plays. If you can just establish your scales, even if you don't have anything in hand, you can use this to your next turn to add an Evil Heel and a Superstar face up to your extra deck. So not only are you deck thinning, but then you can summon those out with your pendulum summon. Probably the next most important card is your Abyss Actor Extras. The little monkey guys are pretty cool. This is while they're in your pendulum zone and your opponent controls a monster, you can special summon them out. When they're on the field, you can tribute them to place one Abyss Actor in your pendulum zone from your deck. So this guy can get your Wild Hope from your deck into your pendulum zone, or if you already have him, you can use it to get Funky Comedian or any of your other pendulum monsters. And what's neat is you don't have to, if they have a monster on the field, if you're going second, which you normally want to go second because you want to attack, then you don't have to waste your normal summon. You can put this in your pendulum zone, use its effect to summon it onto the field, and then use its effect on the field to add another thing to your pendulum zone. If you already have your pendulum scales, it's not really that useful, but getting your pendulum scales set up is so important at this deck that this is easily a 3 of. Next up in importance is Funky Comedian, mostly just because it has that 8 scale, It has a monster effect that's not really all that important. You can give another Abyss Actor up to like 900 or 1200 attack, which has been useful once or twice, but I rarely use it. His Pendulum effect is pretty good though. Once per turn, you contribute an Abyss Actor monster to target another Abyss Actor, and it gains attack equal to the original attack of the other monster. This lets you get over really high attack point things, more than 3,000. If you can get Superstar and Evil Heal, you tribute one onto the other one, and suddenly you have like a 5,500 attack point monster. Even with some of these level 4s, if you just do 15 and 17, you're going up above 3,000. And of course, you tribute those monsters, but you can Pendulum summon them back next turn, so it's not really a big deal. Our final two, Sassy Rookie and Leading Lady, probably the least important, although they do still have some pretty decent effects. Sassy Rookie, Pendulum effect is just if Abyss Actor monsters you control would be destroyed, you can destroy this card instead, which is decent, but I rarely use it. You mostly want to summon this guy on the field because the first time it would be destroyed by battle or card effects, it is not, so it's a decent defense wall. They have to use targeted removal to get rid of it. A lot of people don't want to waste it on a 1700 4-star, and when they do finally destroy it, you can special summon one level 4 lower Abyss Actor monster from your deck. So even when they do destroy it, they have to do 2 attacks to destroy it, and then you're summoning something else in the way, so the third attack can get rid of that. And of course you can use that if they only have 2 monsters, they just barely got rid of this. You can summon out extras to build your Pendulum scale. Most of the time I go for this Leading Lady. Her effect is once per turn. When battle damage is inflicted to either player, target one face-up monster your opponent controls, and it loses attack equal to that battle damage. So if they're attacking with a big like 3,000 into this, you're making them lose 1,500, which can set up for really big like OTK or just massive attack plays if next turn you can then summon out some things. It also has the effect that if it's destroyed while it's a monster, you could set one of these Abyss scripts directly from your deck, which is decent. Like I said, these are pretty good, but that's not an effect you want to summon it out just to get most of the time. While this is in your Pendulum scale, it has a similar effect that when you take battle damage from an opponent's attacking monster, you can activate one of these 2 effects. The first one, like its monster effect, you can have that monster that attacked lose attack equal to the battle damage you took, which again is pretty decent. If you just put this in your scale and you take 3,000 straight to the face, that monster's then losing all of its attack, and then next turn you can attack into it, hopefully. The second effect is you can add one face-up Abyss Actor Pendulum monster from your extra deck who has attack less than the damage you took, which is pretty good for things like extras. Extras will often be in your extra deck and you can't summon it because it's level 1. Same thing with Funky Comedian because it's 300. So being able to add them back when you just take a tiny amount of damage. This is often in the Pendulum scales alongside Wild Hope or maybe Funky Comedian. The only other thing monster-wise I didn't mention was just these other guys' Pendulum effects. Superstar, you contribute one Abyss Actor to target an Abyss script in your graveyard and add it to your hand. And Evil Heal, sort of like the opposite of Funky Comedian, you contribute an Abyss Actor to target a face-up monster your opponent controls, and it loses attack equal to the attack of the tributed monster. Between the 2 of these, you can actually like boost up and lower down attack to OTK, but usually you don't want to have this guy in your Pendulum scale. As for his spell traps, I already mentioned the Abyss scripts. Both of these do have an additional effect. If they're destroyed by your opponent's card effect while you have an Abyss Actor face up in your extra deck, they get effects. So you can set them just sort of like to bait out Twin Twisters and stuff like that. Opening Ceremony lets you draw until you have 5 cards in your hand, and Rise of the Abyss King lets you add 2 Abyss Actor or Abyss scripts with different names from your deck to your hand. And both of these combo really well with Extra, because Extra is going to put himself face up in your extra deck while letting you complete your Pendulum scales. And then, you know, if you don't need to gain life points, just setting this can be really good bait, especially since our other traps that we're running. We've got Wall of Disruption. That's when an opponent monster declares an attack. All attack position monsters they control lose 800 for every monster they control, which can often put, like, if they have a field of 4 monsters, those are pretty much all going to 0, no matter how much attack they have. And of course, Solemn Strike, which is just great removal. So you play these 2 that they need to get rid of, because this is non-targeting attack reduction, and this is just stopping them from making plays, and then you combine them with these things that they don't want to destroy. So especially in matches and stuff like that, it can make it really difficult for them to blind MST, because they don't know if they're hitting a Solemn Strike or if they're giving you 5 cards. Finally, we're just playing Pot of Desires for extra draw power. Nothing in this deck is like super important. You can play without your heals or your superstars or your Wild Hopes. So this is actually really good in this. It lets you draw through and complete your Pendulum scales faster without much of a downside. And then we're just playing the one Pot of Riches just for a little bit of recovery. If you end up with a lot of extras in your extra deck or a lot of Funky Comedians, or you get Solemn Striked and some of your bigger monsters are in the graveyard, you can shuffle them back and draw some cards. Other than that, we just have the side deck. The things I would actually recommend for the side deck. There's another Abyss script, Dragon's Lair. This is target one Abyss actor you control. If it destroys an opponent's monster by battle, your opponent banishes 3 monsters from their extra deck, their choice. And then if it's set and your opponent destroys it, you can look at their extra deck and banish 1 monster from it. This can be pretty decent against certain decks, but not every deck uses the extra deck. And even then, it's a little slow, because you already have to have an established field. I found usually if I had the ability to use this, I was already on the winning side of things, and removing cards from their extra deck wasn't going to help you. But against certain decks, this is definitely worth sighting in. Likewise, Abyss Prop Wild Wagon. This is not an Abyss script, which sucks because you can't search it with anything, but it's continuous. The first time each Abyss actor monster you control would be destroyed by battle, it is not, which lets you have even more survivability. And once per turn, you can target an Abyss actor, and your opponent can't target it with the card effects until the end of their turn. So you can do a little bit of protection. You summon out your Evil Heal, you put this on. It won't save you from like Mirror Force or anything, but since it lasts until your opponent's turn, they're not going to be able to target this next turn with anything that can remove it. Of course, it's kind of a dead draw by itself, and getting multiples of them is sucky, and you can't search it, so I didn't really feel it belonged, but against certain decks it can be really good. Also against decks with a lot of spell trap removal, because this has the most powerful effect. If it's destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can return all cards they control to the hand. So this is just instant. If they try to like wipe the field with acid, you're just sending everything back to their hand, which is awesome. Of course, you have to have a face-up Abyss actor in your extra deck, so you can't just set it and hope. Likewise, if Pot of Desires gets hit, or if you can't afford the Pot of Desires, more Pot of Riches. It's a little slower, but it's draw power, and it works fairly well with this deck. Likewise, Mirror Force, I had that in here originally instead of Wall of Disruption, but I found it was better to lower attack and attack into it. A lot of things still get effects when they're destroyed, but again, if you can't afford those or if you don't want those, Mirror Forces work pretty well, and it goes with that theme of having some traps that they need to get rid of and some things they don't want to get rid of. The rest of these are just sort of extra options. A lot of people were telling me to run Allure of Darkness. I didn't particularly like it. Even though these are all dark, I don't like banishing the Abyss actors once I have them in my hand. Banishing some from the deck is fine, but you really need all your monsters, especially because you have no way to recover these once they are banished. If you did want to run this, I was originally running that with Escape from a Dark Dimension that lets you summon a banished monster. But then you just get this combo where you'll get one of these and not the other, or you'll get both of them and no monsters. It's just a little bit too convoluted to work properly. And finally we have this thing, Sinister, some Japanese word I can't say. This is each turn a level 5 or higher fiend type monster can be normal summoned without tributing, and if exactly one normal summoned level 5 or higher fiend monster would be destroyed, you could send this card to the graveyard instead. So this is all fiends, and this will let you, if you don't have your scales, you can normal summon Evil Heal or Superstar, which gives them a little added protection, and if they would be destroyed, you could destroy this again. There's not enough high-level monsters for me to run this, but it was pretty decent for a while. Again, if you can't afford Pot of Desires, or you don't want Pot of Desires or Solemn Strike, this can be a good option. Oh, and I forgot this one monster over here, Darkness Necrosphere. Pretty cheesy card if you want to go crazy. This card cannot be special summoned except by sending one fiend-type monster you control and one fiend-type monster from your hand to the graveyard when your opponent monster declares an attack. Can be destroyed by battle, and once per turn you can return all face-up trap cards to the hand. So, not great, but it can be pretty good, especially if you're playing more Pot of Riches. You can put, all these are fiends, so you can put them into the graveyard and summon out this 4,000 attack beater. We don't have any effect to use with the traps, but it's a 4,000 beater. So there you go, there's your What a Deck profile for this week. Next week I'll be looking at some anti-meta stuff, perhaps with some anti-special summons. Until then, good luck, have fun.